I want you to think about someone you know. Maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a sibling, maybe, if you're being completely honest with yourself, it's you. They're not a bad person, they're not lazy, they work hard, they show up, they handle their responsibilities. They've been doing that for decades now, but somewhere along the line, quietly, without any single dramatic moment, they stopped choosing their life and started just living whatever version of it showed up. The career they're in right now, they didn't really choose it. It just became permanent somehow. The way they handle stress, conflict, disappointment, they never decided that either. It's just the pattern that formed after enough hard years. The things they used to want, the peace they were chasing, the version of themselves they used to picture, those got quieter over time. Not because they gave up dramatically, but because life kept moving and they kept reacting, and one day that picture just faded. And the hardest part? From the outside, everything looks fine, stable, together, accomplished even. But on the inside, there is this low hum, this quiet, uncomfortable feeling that the life being lived was never really chosen. It just happened, and they went along with it. If that lands close to home, this video is for you. Because here is what I want you to understand before we go any further. It is not too late. Whatever age you are watching this, whatever has already happened, whatever you feel you have missed. The Stoics were not a philosophy for the young. They were a philosophy for the willing. And the decisions we are going to talk about today can be made at any point, but they have to be made consciously, deliberately, with full ownership. Most people never make them. Today you will know what they are. Let's get into it. The first decision is the most foundational and the one most people spend their whole lives avoiding. You have a version of yourself in your head, a picture of the kind of person you are, or the kind of person you have always wanted to be. Calm under pressure, intentional, present, someone whose actions and values are actually aligned. Now here is the uncomfortable question. Is there a gap between that picture and how you actually show up day to day? Most people have that gap, and most people manage it by not looking at it directly. They stay busy, they stay distracted, they tell themselves they will close it later, when things slow down, when the kids are grown, when work settles, when life gives them a moment to breathe. But later never comes, and the gap doesn't close on its own, it quietly widens. Here is what the Stoics understood, that most modern thinking misses. Your character is not something that develops automatically with age or experience. It is something you build, actively, deliberately, through the choices you make in ordinary moments when nothing dramatic is happening and no one is watching. Epictetus said that no external force can take from you the choice of who you are on the inside. But here is the other side of that truth. If no one can take it from you, then no one can give it to you either. Not your upbringing, not your circumstances, not time. You have to choose it. So the first decision is this. Stop waiting to become the person you picture and decide to be them now. Not when conditions are perfect, not when you feel fully ready. Now, from here. With what you have. It looks like holding yourself to a standard in private, in the small moments. The ones where no one would ever know if you let it slide. It looks like pausing before you react and asking, is this how the person I want to be would handle this? That decision, to take authorship of your own character rather than leaving it to whatever shaped you in the past, is the foundation. Everything else rests on it. The second decision is about what you are done carrying. Think about the patterns in your life that you already know are costing you. Not the unclear ones, the ones you have been living with long enough to recognize. Maybe it is the way you shut down when conversations get difficult instead of staying present and working through it. Maybe it is the habit of putting everyone else's needs first until you have nothing left and then quietly resenting it. Maybe it is the procrastination that shows up every time something truly important is on the line. The comfort you keep choosing over the discomfort that would actually move you forward. Maybe it is the voice inside that has been telling you for years that you are not quite enough, And somewhere along the way you stopped arguing with it. You already know what yours is. You don't need more reflection to identify it. You have been living with it. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself every morning about the ways he was falling short of his own standard. The most accomplished person in the Roman world, holding himself to account in private, not to punish himself, but to stay awake, to refuse the comfort of self-deception. Because here is what self-deception costs you. It doesn't feel expensive in the moment. It feels like relief, like grace, like being kind to yourself. But every time you tolerate something in yourself that you know is beneath the person you want to be, you send yourself a quiet message. You tell yourself this is the level you operate at, this is who you are, and eventually you believe it. The decision is to stop, not to be perfect, not to never struggle, but to draw a line in your own mind and say, this pattern no longer has permission to run my life. I have seen it, I have named it, and I am done giving it the wheel. That line is where real change begins. If this speaks to you, subscribe. We post this every week. The third decision is about attention, and most people are losing this battle without even realizing they are in it. You wake up, and before you have even fully arrived in the day, before you have had a quiet moment with your own thoughts, your attention is already somewhere else. A phone, notifications, news, other people's updates, other people's opinions, other people's emergencies, and it continues from there, all day, pulled from one thing to the next, reacting, responding, managing. By the time evening comes, you are genuinely exhausted, but if someone asked you what you actually moved forward today, what you created or built or invested in, the honest answer is uncomfortable. That is not a laziness problem, that is an attention problem. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a great deal of it." He wasn't talking about obvious time wasting. He was talking about the slow, invisible drain of attention toward things that feel urgent, but are not actually important. Here is a truth worth sitting with. Your attention is the most valuable thing you own. More than your money, more than your calendar. Because money can be rebuilt and schedules can be reorganized, but when your attention is captured and held by something that doesn't serve you, the focus and energy that could have gone somewhere meaningful is simply gone. And we live in a world that is specifically designed to capture and hold your attention, whether you choose it or not. Every platform, every notification, every piece of content is engineered to pull you in and keep you there. That is not an accident. That is the business model, which means deciding where your attention goes is no longer passive. It requires an active, conscious decision. The decision is this: to get honest about what actually deserves your focus, to identify the 2 or 3 things that, if you genuinely invested your attention in them, would move your life forward in ways that matter to you, and then to protect that attention, not perfectly but deliberately. Before giving your mental and emotional energy to something, a worry you keep turning over, an argument that keeps pulling you back, a stream of content that leaves you feeling worse than before you started, ask, does this deserve what I am giving it? Most people discover, when they start asking that question honestly, that the majority of what was consuming their attention was never truly important. It just felt urgent. And urgency without importance is just noise in a costume. Decide what gets your attention. Then protect that decision like the valuable resource it is. Think about yesterday, just yesterday. Out of everything that had your attention, how much of it did you actually choose? How much of it chose you? Drop a number in the comments. Out of 10, how intentional was yesterday for you? I genuinely want to know. The fourth decision is the one most people avoid making, because making it requires sitting with something uncomfortable. Difficult things are not coming as a possibility, they are coming as a certainty. Loss is certain, disappointment is certain. There will be moments ahead, and perhaps you have already lived several of them, where something you built falls apart, where someone you counted on is no longer there, where a plan you organized your life around simply does not work out. The question is never whether these things will happen, The only question is who you will be when they do. Most people have never decided this in advance, so when difficulty arrives, they respond from whatever is available in that moment, which is usually fear or grief or anger or a kind of paralysis that can last far longer than the original event. And then they spend months, sometimes years, recovering not just from what happened, but from how they responded to what happened. The Stoics practiced something called the premeditation of adversity, not dwelling on worst cases, not anxiety, a calm, deliberate acknowledgement that hard things are part of life, and a decision made in a moment of clarity about who you are going to be when they arrive. A person who has never decided how they will handle loss will be defined by their worst moment of loss because they have nothing prepared. They are trying to build the foundation while the storm is already happening. But a person who has decided, I will feel this fully and I will not be stopped by it. I will find the next right move from wherever I actually stand. I will keep going. That person has something solid to hold on to when everything else is shaking. This is not about being emotionless. Grief is real. Pain is real. The Stoics never asked anyone to stop feeling. The decision is simply this: I will not be permanently undone by what I cannot control. I will feel it. I will sit with it. And then I will find the next move. That posture, decided now, held later, is what separates the people who are rebuilt by hard things from the people who are buried by them. Make that decision before the next hard thing arrives, because it will arrive. And you will either have an answer ready, or you will be searching for one in the dark. The fifth decision is the one that gives all the others their weight. Because here is the honest truth. You can become more disciplined, more intentional, more resilient, and still feel like something is missing, still feel a quiet hollowness underneath all the productivity and the effort. And the reason is usually this: discipline without direction is just controlled drifting. You are moving with more precision, but you still don't know where you are going or what it is all actually for. So the fifth decision is the deepest one. What are you building with the time you have left? Not what you are earning. A lot of people earn well and feel empty. Not what you are accumulating. Things do not answer this question. What are you building? In your character, in your closest relationships, in the way you show up in the world every day, that actually means something to you. That is what the absence of this decision costs you. Every opportunity looks equally valid because there is no filter. Every distraction looks equally reasonable because there is no clear purpose to measure against. Without knowing what you are building, there is no way to know what deserves your energy and what doesn't. So define it. And I am not asking for a grand life mission written in calligraphy. I am asking something simpler and harder than that. When you look back at this period of your life 10 years from now, what would make you feel like this time was not wasted? What do you want to have built in yourself, in your relationships, in the work you gave yourself to? What kind of person do you want the people closest to you to say you were, not at a ceremony, but in a quiet, honest moment when no one is performing? Answer that, even roughly, even imperfectly, because once you have an answer, even a partial one, something shifts. The noise gets quieter, decisions get clearer. The things that don't serve the life you are trying to build start losing their pull. That is what direction does. It doesn't remove the difficulty. It gives the difficulty meaning. You were not made to drift. Decide what you are building, then build it. 5 decisions, not 5 habits, not 5 things to add to a routine and abandon by next week. 5 fundamental choices about who you are becoming, what you are done tolerating in yourself, where your attention actually goes, how you will handle what breaks you, and what you are building with the time you have. Here is what I want you to hear clearly. It is not too late. Whatever has already happened, whatever you feel you have missed or wasted or lost, the Stoics were not a philosophy for the young. They were a philosophy for the willing. And the person who makes these decisions, at any age, from any starting point, stops feeling like life is something that is happening to them and starts feeling like they are happening to life. That is the work. Step up to the anvil.